I'd like to talk about who cares first, because over the years I used to see Balanchine at least once a year to talk over what was going to happen in the company. But as usual, in conversations like that, he would talk about other things that were not on the subject. And he said to me over several years, I'm trying to do a ballet to Gershwin songs. And he said, it's very difficult because they are songs. And I think he worked at it for about 5 years, playing the songs, trying to see how he could put them together in what became Who Cares? But it was the first time I heard him say anything was difficult for him. So when he assembled you all, or did you learn Who Cares in sections? Did he ever assemble the entire cast and say, I'm using Gershwin songs? Did he ever tell you what the songs were?
Well, I have the titles. You know, my solo was I Built a Stairway to Paradise, you know. And I mean, the choreography also indicates the words, but it's more or less...
It's classical.
Man I Love, isn't it? That's obvious, right?
Right.
And then Mr. B would say, when everyone said, oh, Man I Love, that's this great title. And he said, well, you know, it's so obvious, who cares? Ah, who cares?
Who cares? I see.
That's right.
Right. So the interesting part, but not unusual part of Who Cares is there is a man and 3 girls, women,
yes,
which you see in several Balanchine ballets. And in this ballet, every single woman is distinctly different from the other.
Absolutely. And on purpose, you know, because every music has differences musically, you know. And I had a very big jump. So Balanchine, you know, and beats, you know.
He used that.
And he used that.
So Jacques d'Amboise was the sole man, and then these were the 3 women. Correct me if I'm wrong, my view of that ballet is this is a big city romance, and Jacques is not picking up girls in bars, but he encounters 3 very different women. And my colleague, Don McDonough, saw your role as the career girl.
Career girl? I've never heard that before.
Well, because you were very sort of no-nonsense brisk. Patty was the big romance, you could think, when she came on, and he had a romantic romance with her, Patty McBride. Marnie Morris was the sweet girl, more of a childish girl.
Little cutesy.
Cutesy.
Yeah, cutesy.
Right. But you knew where you were going, and I love the ending, which we see in this video, where you are on one side and then you leap to the other side into deep fourth, and it's right on a dime. And so it's the career girl. She knows where she's going. So you never thought of that, but I thought Don really described it very well.
Interesting.
And you had a ponytail?
Ponytail.
Right.
On the side, you know.
On the side. So did he decide where the ponytail was going to be also, on the side?
He just said either side, you know.
But not in the back?
Not, you know, in the back, because sometimes when you move your head forward, it goes in your face, you know. On the side, it was okay. It was on the right side.
Many people don't think of that because he was concerned with every aspect. And so when he taught you, I wouldn't say taught you, when he choreographed that work, did he come with, you feel the choreography already in his head, or did he experiment with you?
Well, you know, before he choreographed, just the whole music. He played the whole music.
For you or for himself? For himself.
For himself, to know the music. And then he had a person in mind who would be part of the musical impact or whatever, you know. And
as he was choreographing.
As he was choreographing. And he would show, and I've never had a problem. Whatever he showed me, I
But he knew, as you said once before here, he knew your capacities and he knew what you could do. He once said to me that he was very glad his dancing career stopped with an injury, because then he wouldn't make dancers do what he could do. And he said, you have to push dancers beyond what they think they can do. And did he have you do things that you were surprised that you were doing? Did he extend your capacities, do you think? For instance, this is, and in Elegy also, very difficult partnering.
It is difficult, and that was very unusual for me.
Because your background was different kind of dancing?
Well, my background, I was very lucky. I did had jazz, I did had modern, I did had character, and I did classical.
And this was in...
And he knew my background, and I didn't know he knew.
In a German company?
Yeah.
Frankfurt?
Frankfurt. And so Lotte Lenya came here, you know, I told you that.
And Lotte Lenya suggested you to Balanchine?
Yeah.
Right.
She said, give me a photograph, so. And then he staged the opera in Hamburg, and I auditioned him. And
where did you audition for him?
In Hamburg.
Were you in the Hamburg Ballet?
I was in Frankfurt.
He came to stage the ballets. He staged operas in Hamburg.
He did opera right in Hamburg,
That's right.
Onegin. And I flew up to meet him, because Lenya arranged it. But I was very nervous wreck, and I never had an audition in my life before, and I fell off point.
But he took you?
I don't know what he saw in me. A week later, I get that I did join New York City Ballet. I started to come over for a year and then go back, you know.
What was your training in Germany?
Yeah.
Which city?
Berlin.
Berlin, so that's a good place to get good training.
Yeah. My mother couldn't afford it, but I got a scholarship for 7 years. I paid every penny back, and
very good.
I made a lot of
And then, so he saw you in Germany, he brought you to the City Ballet, and you had never seen the New York City Ballet?
Yeah, I was 15 years old. I saw them dance in Berlin.
In Berlin.
Before Tanneke Leclerc got ill.
And so when you came to New York City Ballet, did he put you into certain kinds of ballets first, or he just threw you in?
We were right away, when I arrived, we went to Russia, 3 months. And then they were...
This was 62?
Yeah, it was about Christmas time. And they were already doing the casting. And I wanted to do Waltz of the Flowers, the core, of course, you know, and I was not called, and I was very sad. And then I was called for Spanish, solo. I did solo right away, and I was in the corps de ballet. It was unbelievable.
He saw something that you could do. So, tell me, as you went on, did you find yourself in some of the leotard ballets? Because I certainly remember you in them, but I don't know how soon he put you into them.
Oh, yeah. Well, 72, we had the Stravinsky Festival.
Right.
That was with the violin concerto I did.
Exactly.
But before, I did Argonne, and I don't mind, I loved leotard parts. I felt very free, you know. And in Tutu, yeah, I did some Symphony in C with Peter Martin's first movement, but I felt more secure with...
Sort of either avant-garde or more romantic, maybe.
I like both.
Right, but that was it, rather than sort of pure neoclassical.
Yeah.
Except for, of course, neoclassical applies to the leotard ballets.
Absolutely.
So I want to then say, so by 1970 you were in demand, so you get into 2 major ballets the same year by Balanchine, Suite No. 3, and then Who Cares? So let me start with Who Cares. I think, as most Balanchine works, it's really about partnering. This is not the old Russian way of partnering, where the man stands behind the girl and turns the girl in a pirouette. The partner is always mobile. He's running around the ballerina or doing his own thing while she's dancing.
Yeah?
So I've always been interested. Did he actually demonstrate the man's part for you when he was teaching you the role? There are always photographs of Balanchine as the partner. And how good was he a partner?
Sure.
Yes.
Unbelievable man.
Unbelievable, even at whatever age
yes,
he could partner.
Was, yeah. And I mean, I have a filming of him, Jerry Robbins' filming, or when we did a report in Superior. He was on the floor, and he was in his 70s.
I was just going to bring that up.
On the floor showing. I could not believe it.
In Stairway to Paradise. I noticed that you were concerned with accents in the coaching, accent, no accent.
Well, it's, he knew, as I told you, my background, and I could sense some music, and the accents were there, and you know, I made it happening.
That's true. But he didn't say tone down the accents.
No, he never did.
Because they were there in that solo.
That's right, in that solo, right.
On the other hand, in Marnie Morris's solo, she has that huge diagonal of turns.
Turns, right.
You're supposed to even there, no accents.
That's right, no accents. You're right.
And we'll go on to a very different ballet, which I must say was a shock when we saw the first movement. Balanchine had done theme and variations, the last movement of Tchaikovsky's Suite No. 3, as you have explained to the dancers. And then he choreographed the three first section of that suite all at once and topped the ballet that we knew very well, which had originally been done for ballet theater, Alisio Alonso and Yuskevich,
right.
which was certainly one of his ballets, which is an homage to Petipa and to the old Marinsky. And you could see as a special nod to Sleeping Beauty, but maybe not, it depends. And suddenly, it opens up with you and 6 other girls barefoot and long hair, and it's sort of dark in a ballroom. When he told the women that they would be barefoot, did you all go on strike?
I found it very unusual. But then when you choreographed it, you know, even in the beginning, I said, oh my God, what a difference.
Difference in
and,
how
you know,
you
I
feel
made
it?
discovery. I was so free to run, you know? And it was, I'm still making...
And that still has lasted with you.
That's
then.
lasted, yeah.
And you think it is partly, as you said, that when you have bare feet, you can use your body differently? Is that what you felt?
Definitely.
And I hate to ask you whether he said anything to the cast before he started. He must have said to the women, no ponytails, no buns. So from the very start, you rehearsed with long hair down.
Yeah.
I'd like to know how you see that movement, which is very different from the other 3 movements. And as it progresses, they go from bare feet to ballet slippers, finally wind up in toe shoes. Do you feel the whole thing is a dream? It is for you. So that is his dream, or in any way that's his vision. And there are often 7 visions, and he has to pick out the true love. But very often she steps out and goes to him. How do you think you're supposed to look different from the other ones? It's through the choreography. Or when you're in the line, do you feel that you melt into the line, or you're still Miss America, the one who's going to win?
No, I felt I was part of the line.
You felt you were part of the
Yeah.
line, and he wanted you
part
to
of
be
the
that. He
girls.
didn't want you to stand out.
No.
So I feel that Elegy, as you said, looks easy but is very difficult. Could you
Absolutely.
expand on that?
Absolutely. I mean, to do turns barefoot, it's always difficult. And I told you when we filmed it, and you have to really awareness, be aware how you present it. And
But
cannot
that's-
just go doing things. You have to be aware of
In Elegy or,
Yeah, in Elegy.
or any Balanchine ballet?
no, in especially in Elegy, right?
In what way? Because of where
Well, you're barefoot, and it's not easy to deal with the choreography.
But he's asking you to do basically classical virtuoso technique in bare feet. Maybe that's what's different.
That's right.
If you were in a toe shoe, you would have an easier way to turn, you feel, than if you were in barefoot road?
Definitely.
Right. And did he say why he wanted you barefoot? I know you're not allowed to ask questions.
Yeah,
but-
he never did say. What should I have asked him?
Why are we barefoot? And maybe he would say, because you have no shoes. Because I would ask him things like that. People
no
who
shoes?
reviewed Davidsbündler Tanze or Liebeslieder Walzer said, you see, here they're in heels, they're on toe. And I asked him, because that was my job, why do they change footwear? He said, it doesn't make any difference, he said. No matter what everybody writes, I just wanted them to be able to dance differently. So he took them off
musically,
heels.
the second half becomes, elevates. It's good, you know.
In Davidsbundertanz? It's the same
Well,
music.
he did, yeah, well.
Well, that's where the main concern was, that the...
He had a reason to change, you know.
Yes, but he said often people forget the man. He didn't use this word, but he explained to me, because he wasn't my boss, so he couldn't make me dance the way he wanted. He said people forget the technical ways of doing things, and you can do different things with different shoes. But you can't possibly do the difficulties of this ballet without having been trained in ballet. A modern dancer couldn't do it, even though it looks modern.
Right. You're absolutely right.
So tell me about the partnering there, because that's where I feel the difficult part is.
It's still ballet to me, and always will be, but it's different to be barefoot. And because I told before, with running, barefoot, you can run from here.
Your chest.
It moves you forward, your the freedom. But in classical ballet, you're like underneath your legs. And that makes a difference. And I overcame this.
So there is a section that I've always noticed, because I have never seen it in any other Balanchine ballet or anywhere else. Toward the last third, when you come in and you twist in a swoon in his arms, then he pulls you back an arabesque, and then you go down to one knee. The way I always remember it is that, especially Tony Blum, he actually seemed to fold you up. I mean, of course you were doing it. You bent your knee and you went down to one knee, but I've never seen where, you know, somebody's in an arabesque and then almost like a doll, they're folded up into joints, and they go down to the one knee, and the man participates in that. But sometimes the girl seems to do it on her own. When you know that part, because I've never seen that.
Well,
you're in an arabesque and you're folded.
some people have problems. Not everyone is the same.
Not everybody can do it. That's what I mean about
some people got hurt, so they cannot be too rough, and you have to lift the leg before you bring it in.
Okay, please explain that moment, which I find is, I have to tell you, at the New York Times, we weren't allowed to use the word unique, because they said nothing is unique, so we had to say it was singular. So explain the singular movement to me in terms of its mechanics. You've just said it. So the woman goes back, is stretched into an arabesque, and it all goes very quickly.
Yeah.
And the man has been holding her almost by the ankle or something in the arabesque.
That's right, ankle.
And then he moves her foot as she's moving her leg into folded up, and she goes down to the knee. So the thing is not to pull back, but
he has
is
to
he
in the
folding
beginning.
you up, or are
because
you doing it?
What?
Are you doing it independently of him, or is he helping you do it?
Well, both ways. We have both ways. But I was very strong, and I never had a problem going further than a split.
I see.
I was very flexible.
That's right.
And I had never problems, you know, and then coming in, there was no problem. But some people have now problems.
With the stretching or the folding?
The stretching. They go too far and too fast back.
Well, of course, the genius of Balanchine is that he extended the ballet vocabulary, and you could say, well, that's not ballet. Yes, it is, because she's turned out and she's in an arabesque and she winds up on the floor, but that's not so unusual in 20th century ballet. So tell me if I'm wrong, is that the only ballet in which that passage, that combination of movement, I won't call it steps, exists? To me, it's totally original.
Yeah, it is. I find it too. Never seen it anywhere else.
Right. Well, you did it.
That's it.
that was striking. And I always felt one shouldn't center on technique and looking at the whole picture, but that passage has always caught my eye, and I've always wondered, how do they do it?
Yeah.
And so not everybody can do it. So, did you like that? Do you like Elegy?
Yeah. It saddened me sometimes, but you know, the music is so special. And I'm in another world. I mean, I don't know what's going on around me.
That's good.
Yeah.
You're totally in the role. Right.
Right.
Well, I would still like to relate that to the rest of your career. That so you have this very bouncy, jazzy ballet. You have Elegy, which is romantic and passionate. I feel in the pas de deux. Did you feel that you were allowed to show that? They have a very passionate meeting for a while.
Yeah.
Well, did he encourage that, or you just did that instinctively with Jacques?
Instinctively.
Okay, but he knew you would do that. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You did the Hindemith, camera music.
Oh, camera music. Oh.
Tell us about that. I watched the rehearsals.
Please. This was the hardest ballet I've ever done.
And I saw that he really
and
worked
Gordon couldn't even play it musically. It was so fast, first movement, and it took forever.
Camera music number...
And it was finally, once I became, it needed time to develop. It was very tough work.
Well, he invited me. I never wanted to go to a rehearsal because I like to see the full picture at the end, and I learned my lesson there that I was right. Because I saw him rehearsing all of you, and he made you repeat it over and over and over and over again. And then there was a part of the music that he called the broken record, but that wasn't...
broken record. Oh, God. Yeah.
And so, of course, when the performance started at the premiere, my eye went immediately to the couples instead of watching what the men in the back were doing, which was what the unusual part was, an all-male corps de ballet. And that's why I don't like to go to rehearsal, because you remember what happened in rehearsal. So tell me what was difficult, because I know he really drove you all very hard. I was even surprised at how hard.
I couldn't believe it. I mean, after the first movement, I collapsed almost. It was non-stop going, you know.
Because it was difficult physically
and
also.
it was the hardest thing I've ever done, is camera music.
Was it the actual movement, or because it was non-stop in different sections, which it was? It was like a broken record sometimes. I remember Colleen Neary had to chaîner off on her heels. And,
oh, right.
not on her feet.
No, I know.
Basically.
It was very highly unusual.
And were you surprised that the corps de ballet was male instead of female? Or
no, I wasn't surprised. I think it was very appropriate.
Tell me why.
Well, it's they have a relationship. It works very well.
The corps is the soloist, and you see that in the music also.
Yeah.
Well, he chose you for that. That's why I'm speaking specifically. I'm happy to be in this session to bring back again the wide range that you had in your works. And when you first came, I think most of us saw you as a dramatic, romantic ballet dancer, and you really showed a range that many people in that company never did. Do you feel that you had a wide range, or do you feel you were specialized?
I felt I had a good background, and it was very versatile. And I'm very grateful for all this, you know.
So, Karin, is there anything you would like to tell me that I haven't asked you?
No, dear. I think you asked me quite a bit.
Well, I think you told us a lot.
And
so.
you know, I really appreciate it, and hopefully.
Well, you still are a wonderful dancer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's very special.